Salaam alaikum. Namaste. Good morning to everybody. पहले तो मैं माफ़ी मांगना चाहता हूँ कि मुझे आपकी ज़ुबान कन्नड़ा नहीं आती है, तो you will have to excuse me. I cannot speak in Kannada. I don't know. I know English and Hindi. If you want, I can speak in English, or if you want, I can speak in Hindi. I'm comfortable in both equally. Or all those who want Hindi, please raise your hands. Okay, all those who want English. Oh, there are more English. All right. So, may I speak in a mixture of the two, if that's okay? Khichdi language, mili juli. Oh, okay. My elder brother, Honorable Justice Santosh Hegde, who is one of my ideals. In fact, he is the third ideal whom I have met since I came yesterday to Bangalore. 3 heroes. The first one was Justice Venkatachalaya, whom I met last night at his residence. He is 96 years of age. One of the greatest Chief Justices of India this country has seen, who maintained very high standards of integrity. This morning I met my second hero, that is Justice Shivaraj Patil, at his residence, and I had breakfast with him. Another great judge of the Supreme Court who maintained very high standards of integrity. And third is before you, Justice Santosh Hegde, all my seniors. When I was a High Court judge, they were Supreme Court judges. So, and the fourth one is Justice Ravindran, whom I'm meeting this evening. He was my contemporary. Bangalore, well, it was known as the Garden City. I believe now it is known as the Silicon of India, Silicon Valley of India, because of the IT industry. You have produced great jurists like the ones I have named just now, great scholars, great IT professionals, and excelled in various fields. So it is a great honor for me to have been invited by Mr. Abdul Subhan and his colleagues to come here and to address you. Today I'm going to speak on a topic which is of very crucial importance for India. That is our national aim. देखिए, किसी को समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि हिंदुस्तान में हो क्या रहा है. Nobody can understand what is going on in this country. Total confusion, like people groping in the dark. You don't know which way we have to go, what is our way ahead, what has happened to us, what is the correct path. So I have come to explain all this because this is of utmost importance for the whole nation. And therefore, you will give me a little time and bear with me, because what I'm going to explain to you is something very vital for this country. देखिए, our national aim must be to abolish the massive poverty, massive unemployment, appalling level of child malnutrition, skyrocketing prices of essential commodities, almost total lack of proper health care and good education for the masses. These huge socio-economic problems we have to abolish. This is our clear-cut national aim. On this, there will be no compromise. I'm not a Democrat. I don't permit freedom of speech and all. If you want to say that there should be poverty, there should be hunger, there should be unemployment, I'm not going to permit it. In that sense, I'm dictatorial. I don't believe in accepting nonsense. So this should be our clear-cut national aim. Some people say we have the fastest growing economy and our GDP is improving and all lies. What is the truth? The truth is every second child in India is malnourished. According to Global Hunger Index, if you go on Google, you will find we were at position number 101 out of 125 countries surveyed, but in the last 5 years we have slipped to position number 107. So we have dropped by 6 places. 6 places we have dropped. Out of 125 countries surveyed, and more than half of our children are malnourished, stunted, wasted. This is the reality of our country. About unemployment, 12 million youth are entering the job market in India every year. 12 million, 1.2 crores. But less than 500,000 jobs are being created in the organized sector of the Indian economy. So where do the remaining 11.5 million go? They become hawkers, vendors, bouncers, stringers, criminals, beggars, suicides. Girls become prostitutes. If one chaprasi job, PN's job is advertised by the government, there are thousands of applications, many of them MSc, MBA, PhDs, engineers, begging for a chaprasi job. This is the truth about your country. And the position is getting worse. Prices, you all know, they are skyrocketing. Asman chhu rahi hai daam. Essential commodities, aata, dal, jo garib aadmi khata hai. How the poor man is existing, I can't understand. Healthcare. You see, proper healthcare is not available to the poor man. I live in Delhi, and I know in Delhi there are some very good hospitals, Max, Fortis, Apollo, Medanta, and so on. State-of-the-art hospitals, but they are exorbitantly expensive. The poor man can't go there. So where does the poor man go for medical treatment? He goes to quacks. See, quackery is rampant. I know in North India, I had cases before me when I was judge of the Allahabad High Court. Quacks had set up polyclinics. And when I made inquiries, they had no proper degree. They had a degree from Bihar, and when I made some inquiries, it was found there's so-called medical college, there's no land there, there's no building there, there's no medical college, but certificates are being given. And these quacks, they are several times the number of regular doctors. But what can the poor man do? He can't afford to go to a regular doctor because it's very expensive. So he goes to quacks. In Hindi they are called jhola chhap doctors. Jhola chhap. I don't know what they are called in Kannada. If you go to All India Medical Institute, which is one of the premier medical institutes in India, in Delhi, it looks like a railway station. Thousands of people are sitting there, nobody bothered about them. For days they are sitting there, nobody cares for them. And just across the road there's Safdarjung Hospital. The same is the situation there. This is the position of your healthcare. Education. See, fortunately you people have some good education, but how many schools are like that? In India, most schools are in a horrible condition. There are no proper teachers. The teachers are appointed by paying some bribe. It's a job, not a teacher should be a man on a mission. Teaching is a mission, but most teachers, they just give some bribe to get a job. This is the situation of most schools, the level of education which is provided. So, now how are you going to abolish all this? Because this has to be a national aim. This has to be abolished. This can't be tolerated. It can only be abolished by transforming India into a modern industrial giant like another China or United States. Now, how do you go about doing it? Because you see, unless you transform India into a modern industrial giant, you can never abolish poverty or unemployment or malnutrition, lack of healthcare, etc. Because even for setting up a small primary school, it costs a huge amount of money. You have to buy land for the school, then you need money for the building, you need money to pay salaries to the teachers, etc. Where is all this money going to come from? Money doesn't fall from the sky. It comes from a highly developed, large-scale industry. That alone can generate the wealth which can provide for the welfare of your people. So we have to transform India into a modern industrial giant, and we have all the potential for it. You know, I go to America very often. My children are there. And I'm often invited to universities to give talks. What I find is American universities are packed with Indian or Pakistani professors of mathematics, of engineering, of science, full of them. We have a huge pool of technical talent which is required to transform a country from a backward country to a modern industrial giant. So we have no shortage of technical talent. We have brilliant scientists, we have brilliant engineers. In 15, 20 years, we can transform India into another China or USA. See, Japan, I'll give you one example. Japan was a very, very backward country under the shoguns. That was before the major restoration of 1868. Before 1868, Japan was ruled by the shoguns. Well, technically the emperor was there, but the real power was in the hand of the shoguns, who kept Japan very backward and feudal. It was a poor country. But in 1868, the major restoration took place. And power passed into the hands of the advisors of the emperor, who were modern-minded people in Japan. They sent their representatives to America and Europe, and they got engineers from there. They set up technical institutes in Japan. They set up industries in Japan. Within 10, 15 years, Japan was transformed from a backward feudal country into a modern state. It just takes 10, 15 years. And that's what we can do. We can become like USA or China in 15 years. There's no difficulty. We have all that technical talent. Now, here I must tell you one thing. See, before the Industrial Revolution, which started in England in the first half of the 18th century, and then from England it spread to France and Germany and later to the USA and all. Before the Industrial Revolution, there were feudal societies everywhere. Now, in feudal societies, the methods of production are so primitive and backward कि वो हल चलता, खेती के लिए हल चलता है, ट्रैक्टर नहीं है. The killing of the land was done by bullocks, not with tractors. So very little wealth could be generated by those primitive methods of production. And since very little wealth could be generated in feudal society, therefore, only a handful of people, the kings and aristocrats, the millas, they could be rich. Rest of the people, 90-95% people had to be poor. Because when the wealth generated is so little that only a handful of people can be rich. This situation drastically changed with the coming of the Industrial Revolution. Now modern industry is so powerful and so big that enough wealth can be generated to give high standard of living and decent life to everybody on earth. Everybody can get a decent life. But what is the reality? Reality is, although 300 years have passed since the Industrial Revolution, yet 2/3 or maybe 3/4 of the world population is very poor. Why? It should not have been so. In 300 years, the whole world should have been enjoying a high standard of living. Why is it happened that 3/4 of the people of the world are still backward and poor, particularly in the underdeveloped countries? Why? See, the reason now, you have to hear me very carefully. See, this world is really not one world. ये एक दुनिया नहीं है, दो दुनिया है. Two worlds in this world. One is the world of the developed countries, which means North America, Europe, Japan, Australia, now even China has joined their ranks. The other is the world of the rest, the underdeveloped countries. That means the countries of Asia except Japan and China. Then Africa, Latin America, they're all underdeveloped countries. That is the second world. Do dunya hai is dunya mein. And there is a secret rule among the developed countries, but very strong rule, but they keep it very secret. They will never tell it openly, that underdeveloped countries must not be allowed to become developed countries. Under no circumstances must India be allowed to become a developed country. Why? Why is there such a rule? Now, let me explain this to you. Now, to explain this to you, you have to understand a bit of economics, because politics is concentrated economics. Unless you understand economics, you will not be able to understand politics. So permit me to go a little into economics. See, cost of labor is a big chunk of the total cost of production. And if the cost of labor is less, then the cost of production is less. And if the cost of production is less, you can sell your goods at a cheaper price as compared to your rival who has expensive labor. See, there's competition in the market. One businessman eliminates another businessman not with guns or bombs or swords, but by underselling him. For example, if you have a shop where you are selling a loaf of bread for 50 rupees, and next to your shop is my shop, and I'm selling the same high quality and size loaf of bread for 40 rupees. You are selling for 50, I'm selling for 40. What will happen? I will eliminate you by underselling you. In other words, all your customers will leave you and become my customers, and you will be eliminated. Now, the same thing happened on national and international level. To give you an illustration, China was a very poor and backward country before their revolution of 1949. Before 1949, China, 95% Chinese were living in horrible poverty. They were landless peasants living in, बहुत बुरा हाल था, miserable conditions. But after 1949, the leaders who came to power in China, they rapidly industrialized China. They set up a massive industrial base in China. Now that massive industrial base, coupled with the cheap labor available in China, enables the Chinese to undersell the whole world. I often go to America. The supermarkets there are packed with Chinese goods because the Chinese will sell the same high quality good which the American manufacturer can sell, but at half its price because the labor is cheap. Everything turns on cost of labor. Countries which have cheap labor have a distinct advantage over countries which have expensive labor. Like India, for example, has very cheap labor. If we set up a massive industrial base, we can undersell the whole world, and Western industries will collapse. Who will buy the expensive goods of USA or Canada or Europe when we will sell the same high quality good at 1/3 the price? Because our labor is cheap. See, everything turns on cost of labor. And countries which have cheap labor have distinct advantage over countries which have expensive labor. Now, if you set up a massive industrial base, as I said, Western industries will collapse, throwing millions and millions of people out of employment. Will they permit that? No, they will oppose that tooth and nail. And how do they oppose it tooth and nail? They do so by making Indians fight each other on the basis of religion, caste, language, etc. Now, once you get this concept clear, things will become clear to you. Why did partition take place in 1947? Again, because these developed countries wanted Hindus and Muslims to fight each other. Why did this Pahalgam attack on 22nd April 2025 took place? Same reason, because selectively 26 Hindus were killed. And therefore those who did this selective killing, their obvious intention was that Hindu-Muslim hostility should be increased. And who will benefit? Again, the developed countries will benefit if Hindus and Muslims fight each other. So the same game is continuing all through. Once you have your basic concept clear, you can understand what is going on in the world. Otherwise, you will not understand anything. So, Now see, therefore, the interest of a country like India directly conflicts with the interest of the developed countries. The developed countries' interest is that India must not be allowed to become a modern industrial giant. It must be kept poor and backward and semi-feudal. Our interest, on the other hand, is that we must become a modern industrial giant, because unless we do so, we will never be able to abolish poverty and unemployment and hunger and lack of healthcare, etc. So our interest directly conflicts the interest of the developed countries and the developed of the underdeveloped countries like India. How will this contradiction be resolved? This is a very sharp contradiction. They will not allow you to become developed, and we must become developed. This is direct contradiction. Now, to explain this, first, I want to go a little bit into history, because then I will be able to explain to you how this contradiction can be resolved. First of all, you must understand what is India. आपको मालूम है भारत है क्या, हिंदुस्तान है क्या? Nobody knows. 143 crore people living in India, not a single one can say what is India. None of you can tell. I'll tell you. See, this is a country of immigrants. It is like North America. The difference between North America and India is, in North America, people came mainly from Europe over the last, say, 500 years. In India, people have been coming for 10,000 years. But broadly, we are a country of immigrants. 94% people living in India today, including maybe all of you, you are not original inhabitants of India. In a sense, you are all foreigners. Your ancestors came mainly from Northwest. See, at one time it was believed that the original inhabitants of India were Dravidians and Aryans came from outside. Now, this theory has also been disproved. Now, the accepted theory is both Aryans and Dravidians were invaders. And who were the original inhabitants of India? They were the pre-Dravidian tribals, known as Adivasis or scheduled tribes, like Bhils, Gonds, Santals, Todas of the Nilgiris. These people who were massacred in large numbers by our ancestors and driven into forests. They are hardly 5 or 6% of the Indian population today. They are the original inhabitants. Dravidians came from outside. See, it is claimed that we Dravidians are the original inhabitants. But this has been disproved. I'll give you two reasoning. Even today, there is a language in Balochistan, which is part of Pakistan, in which a language spoken is called Brahui. B-R-A-H-U-I. Please note it down in your mobile if you've got it. Brahui, which is similar to your Kannada or Tamil. Now this is surprise. You will be surprised. How is the South Indian language being spoken by 2 million people today in Balochistan? I've met many of those Brahui speakers. Their language is similar to your Kannada or Tamil. How? In Pakistan, there's a Dravidian language being spoken today. Obviously, this proves that some remnants of the Dravidians still have survived. And at one time, the Dravidians were living in this area, Pakistan area, and they were driven down maybe by Aryans or whoever. So that is one proof that even Dravidians were outsiders. And secondly, these pre-Dravidian tribals, these Bhils, Gonds, Santals, etc., they do not speak the Dravidian group of languages. You've got a Dravidian group of languages which includes Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, Malayalam, etc. These tribals do not speak the Dravidian group of languages. They speak a group of languages which are called Austric group of languages. A-U-S-T-R-I-C, which is very different from the Dravidian group of languages. So this also indicates that there are three layers. Aryans came from outside, Dravidians came from outside, original inhabitants were the pre-Dravidian tribals. See, people kept rolling into India for 10,000 years. Why? Except on 3 occasions, people went from India outside. One was the indentured labor, which was sent by the Britishers to Fiji and Mauritius, British Guiana, and so on, as plantation labor in the 19th century. Second was a group of people on the western coast like Gujarat who went as traders to East Africa. And thirdly, the diaspora over the last 50 years, IIT graduates, doctors, the highly educated people who went to America and all. Except on these three occasions, nobody left India. Everybody kept coming into India. Why? The reason is that people migrate from uncomfortable areas to comfortable areas. Obviously, everybody wants comfort. Now, in those days, there was no modern industries. There were agricultural societies. What do you require for agriculture? For agriculture, you require level land, fertile soil, plenty of water for irrigation, and so on. All this was in abundance in the Indian subcontinent. If you go from Rawalpindi to Bangladesh, deep south Kanyakumari, all level land, fertile soil, lakes, rivers, paradise for agriculture. So everybody kept rolling in for 10,000 years. Why should anybody go from India to, say, Afghanistan, which is covered with snow for several months in a year, rocky, uncomfortable, mountainous? Everybody wants comfort. So people kept and there's no extreme climate. I live in Delhi. The minimum temperature becomes, say, 5 degrees centigrade. It is not minus 30 degrees centigrade as in Russia and all. It is cold, but not killing cold. So it is tolerable. So the climate is relatively not so extreme. So people kept coming into India for 10,000 years because this was ideal for agriculture. And that is why there's so much diversity in India. Tremendous diversity. So many religions, so many castes, so many languages, so many ethnic groups, etc. You compare India with China. You see, you have a population of over 140 crores, so does China. Their population is also about 140 crores. But there's broad homogeneity in China. All Chinese have got Mongoloid faces. They look like Mongoloids. 95% Chinese belong to one ethnic group called the Han, H-A-N. They have one common written script called Mandarin. Mandarin is also a spoken language, but there are some other spoken languages like Cantonese and Hakka and all, but written language is the same. So there's broad, not absolute, but broad homogeneity in China. On the other hand, in India, there's tremendous diversity. So that is because whichever group of immigrants came into India brought their own religion, their language, their customs, their culture, and so on. That is why, that explains the tremendous diversity in India, because this is a country of immigrants. So the only policy which can work in this country is the policy of the great Mughal Emperor Akbar. It is called Sulh-e-Kul. See, Akbar tried two policies. One, he tried to form a common religion called Deen-e-Ilahi, but that was a failure. But the second policy, this is Sulh-e-Kul, was a great success. Because Sulh-e-Kul means giving equal respect to all religions and communities. Akbar he's the father of the Indian nation. That is why the Mughal Empire lasted so long, for 300 years, because it was inclusive. It took everybody together. Akbar had in his own court Hindus on a very high level, like Raja Todarmal was the finance minister of the Mughal Empire, and Akbar and Birbal and Man Singh were great generals. So everybody was given respect. And that is the only policy of Sulh-e-Kul, which can keep this country together and take it on the path of progress. Presently, what has happened? In the constitution, it is mentioned secular. De jure, you are secular, but de facto, you are becoming Hindu. Now, if you make it like this, you are then treating non-Hindus as inferiors. And what will be the result? The people in the northeast, they are overwhelmingly Christians, like Nagas, Mizos, they are Christian. They will say, we will secede from India. You want to make this country a Hindu state, that means we must become inferior. This is not acceptable to us. We have our self-respect. We will not live in a country which treats us as inferiors. So the northeast states will secede. Kashmir is predominantly Muslim. They will say, we will secede. Sikhs are demanding Khalistan. You know, you're going to have many partitions. This country will be balkanized, it will be broken up. If you adopt this policy that this will be a Hindu state, with some elements as you know, are trying to do. So, see, people criticize Islam. I can tell you, why did Islam spread in large parts of the world, from Spain to Indonesia? Some people said that Islam spread at the point of the sword. But which Arab army went to Indonesia, which is 90% or 95% Muslim? There was no Arab armies going to Indonesia. So this is not correct that Islam spread because of force, by the sword. Islam spread because of the great message of equality. It treated everybody as equals. It gave social emancipation to the depressed classes. We, in our own Hindu society, we treat Dalits as inferior. At one time, they were treated almost like dogs. Islam spread in the world because of the great message of equality which the great prophet taught. That is why I respect the great prophet. And also, the prophet said, for knowledge, go even to China. So, of course, the word China is a metaphor. It means for knowledge, go wherever you can find it. At one time, it was a very rational religion. And that is why science developed a lot in the Arab countries at one time. So this is why Islam spread. But the communal people, now see, let me now clarify one thing. There was no communalism in our country before 1857. Please note this. 1857 के पहले कोई सांप्रदायिकता, फिरका परस्ती नहीं थी हिंदुस्तान में. Before 1857, Hindus and Muslims used to live like brothers and sisters, help each other. Hindus would participate in Eid and Muharram. Muslims would participate in Holi, Diwali. कोई problem नहीं था. It is true that the initial Muslim invaders who came into India, they broke a lot of Hindu temples. This is correct. Like Mahmud Ghazni broke the Somnath temple. It is correct. And many other invaders did the same. But the descendants of the Muslim invaders, like for instance, Babur was an invader. But his grandson Akbar was not an invader. He was born here in India. He lived all his life in India. So the descendants of the Muslim invaders, they, in fact, far from breaking temples, they would give grants to Hindu temples. See, this part of our history has been concealed in our history books. Our history books have been distorted by the British and their followers. The first part that the Muslim invaders broke temples, that is mentioned. Ki Mahmud Ghazni broke Somnath temple. But what is not mentioned was a 10 times longer period when the Muslim rulers, they promoted secularism. They gave grants to Hindu temples. They also it is all documented. These documents are in Persian, and for thousands of years, this happened. For example, Tipu Sultan, who belonged to your state, Karnataka, it is blamed that he was communal. Far from being communal, Tipu Sultan used to give annual grants to 156 Hindu temples. 156. If you don't believe me, you do one thing. You write down on your mobile, on Google, history in the service of imperialism. History in the service of imperialism. This was the name of a speech given by Professor B.N. Pandey in the Raj Sabha, upper house of Indian Parliament, I think in 1978 or so. He was a professor of history in Allahabad University. Then he went as governor of Odisha. Then he gave this speech. History in the Service of Imperialism, where he's mentioned great details. See, the Muslim rulers, their 80-90% population was Hindu, and they realized that if they broke temples every day, there would be a revolt or some disturbance. Every king wants to live in peace and comfort. No king wants disturbances in his kingdom. So, in their own interest, the Muslim kings promoted secularism. They would give grants to Hindu temples. So it is absolutely incorrect that all the Muslim kings used to destroy Hindu temples. What happened in, see, the Mughals, except there's a controversy about Aurangzeb, otherwise the Mughals used to celebrate Holi, Diwali and so on. The Nawabs of Awadh used to organize Ram Leela and so on. See, what happened was in 1857, that is a watershed, you must understand this. 1857, the Great Mutiny broke out, in which Hindus and Muslims jointly fought against the British. Now, after suppressing that mutiny, the British decided that the only way to rule India was divide and rule. That is, make Hindus and Muslims fight each other. And you can see, if you go and read that speech on Google, History in the Service of Imperialism by B.N. Pandey, you will find mention of the letters coming from the Secretary of State for India in London to the British Viceroy saying that make Hindus and Muslims fight each other. The dates of the letters are given, the name of that Secretary of State for India is given, the name of that Viceroy is given, the contents of the letter are given. Many examples you will find. So deliberate policy after 1857 was, to make Hindus and Muslims fight each other. There was no communal problem, no communal riots before 1857. All communal riots start after 1857. They were artificially created. See, the British collector would call the Hindu Panditji at night secretly, give him some money and say, from tomorrow start speaking against Muslims. Similarly, he would call the Maulana in the night, give him some money and say, from tomorrow start speaking against Hindus. Then agent provocateurs were hired. That some cow was slaughtered. Overnight, the carcass of the cow was thrown into a Hindu temple, and on the wall it was written, Allahu Akbar. So when Hindus would get up in the morning and read this, they would think all Muslims are evil people, bad people, and all kill a pig, throw the carcass of the pig in a mosque, and write on the wall, Jai Shri Ram or Jai Bajrang Bali, so that when Muslims would get up, they would read this and they would think all Hindus are bad people. See, this policy was pursued year after year, decade after decade, from 1857. Then in 1909, the Minto-Morley reforms came. Separate electorates. Hindus can only vote for Hindu candidate, Muslim can only vote for Muslim candidate. Then Aligarh Muslim University was created. Banaras Hindu University was created. How can a university be Hindu or Muslim? University means universal for everybody. But no, Hindus and Muslims must be made to fight each other. So you must have a Hindu university, you must have a Muslim university. Then this idea was created that Hindi is the language of Hindus, Urdu was the language of Muslims. The truth was that Urdu was the language of everybody. Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, padhe likhe logon, educated class were all writing and reading in Urdu. My grandfather only knew Urdu. Former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh told me that he writes all his speeches in Urdu. Urdu was the common language of everybody. But this, to create hatred between Hindus and Muslims, an artificial language called Hindi was created. Hindi is no language actually. The language of the common man is Hindustani, not Hindi. So the difference between the two is, see, in Hindi we say udhar dekhiye, ya udhar dekho. In Hindustani we say that. Hindi mein kahenge udhar avlokan kijiye. Now does the common man ever use the word avlokan? Common man says udhar dekho ya udhar dekhiye. He will never say udhar avlokan kijiye. But you have to create a language artificially. Hindi is an artificially created language. The language of common man was Hindustani, and the language of the educated class was Urdu. But again, to make Hindus and Muslims fight each other. So ये policy चलती गई, year after year, decade after decade, ultimately resulting in partition. देखिए, ये जो पाकिस्तान है ना, it is a fake country. पाकिस्तान कोई मुल्क नहीं है. It is part of India. It was bound to be reunited with India. Pakistan क्या है? Pakistan is Punjab, it is Sindh, it is Balochistan. These were all part of India for 500 years from the time of Mughal Emperor Akbar. I have a lot of Pakistani friends. I talk to them on WhatsApp. हिंदुस्तानी में हम बात करते हैं, वो हिंदुस्तानी हमसे जवाब देते हैं. एक ही जुबान है, and culture is really based on language, not on religion. तो हम लोग की culture एक ही है. इंडियन और पाकिस्तानीज की. वी आर एक्चुअली वन कंट्री. पाकिस्तान तो फर्जी मुल्क है. इट इज़ बाउंड टू बी रीयूनाइटेड विद इंडिया. वो बनाया गया था इसलिए ताकि हिंदू मुसलमानों को लड़वाना है. द होल गेम ऑफ द डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज वाज दिस. अच्छा, इवन आफ्टर द ब्रिटिश लेफ्ट इन 1947, communalism has continued. अब इधर क्या है? In recent years, what you have noticed, lynching of Muslims, bulldozing houses of Muslims, atrocities on Muslims. वो कोई जय श्री राम नहीं कह रहा तो पिटाई करो उसकी. There was this professor Mahmoodabad of Ashoka University in Haryana. He had only written that Muslims are being lynched, which is a fact, and he has been arrested and put in jail. Umar Khalid, who got a PhD from JNU for 6 years, he's in jail for nothing. There's no real charge against him. And this is our judiciary. Pardon me, my brother Santosh Hegde, this is what has happened to your judiciary. Your job was to protect the rights of citizens. That is what you are paid for. And lots of Muslims are in custody for years. Umar Khalid, what is there against? I can't find anything except that he's a Muslim by name. For 6 years, and these Supreme Court judges, they postpone his bail application. Postpone करते जा रहे हैं. अरे bail application, when a bail application would come to me, within 2 weeks I would decide it this way or that way. I would give 1 week time to the government to file counter affidavit, and within 10 days or 2 weeks I would decide it. आप यहाँ चला जा रहा है, year after year, cases are not being heard, delayed. Are you really acting as the guardians of the liberties of the people, which is your solemn duty as a Supreme Court, High Court judge? So now coming back to the central point which I raised, that how can we transform India into a modern industrial giant? Because that alone can radically change the situation and abolish poverty and unemployment, hunger and so on. How can our problem be solved? See, one thing is very clear, that they cannot be solved within the present constitutional system. Because in our constitution, you have provided for parliamentary democracy. And how does parliamentary democracy function in this country? Everybody knows. 90% people, when they go to vote, they don't see the merit of the candidate, whether he's a good man, bad man, educated, uneducated, criminal, non-criminal. सीधे भेड़ बकरी जैसे, like sheep and cattle, जात बरादरी पे वोट डाल दोगे कि हम आप लिंगायत है कि वो कलिग्गा है. इस पे तो he may be a good man, criminal, but he will Lingayat, I will vote for him. बहुत अच्छा, wonderful system. 90% people behave like sheep and cattle. कि लिंगायत को देना हमें, या क्या वो कलिग्गा कहते हैं, क्या कहते हैं? वो कलिग्गा, even if he is a criminal, he is dacoit. That is why there are so many criminals in parliament and state legislatures. Because you are not voting on his merit, you are voting on his caste. This is your parliamentary democracy. You see, casteism and communalism are feudal forces which have to be destroyed if India is to progress. But parliamentary democracy further entrenches them because it runs on that basis. So it entrenches, it makes stronger these feudal forces. How can parliamentary democracy do any good to your country? And mind you, this country is permanently in an election mode. हिंदुस्तान में 28 स्टेट्स हैं और 8 यूनियन टेरिटरीज हैं, 28 states and 8 union territories. So somewhere or the other, either elections are taking place or preparations for elections are taking place. Like in Bihar, elections are due in October. उसके बाद कहीं ना कहीं तो माहौल permanently we are in an election mode. और election जीतने का क्या तरीका है? How to win election? By polarizing society, by spreading hatred, by inciting on religious or caste basis hatred. ये तो आपकी पॉलिटिक्स हो गई है. पार्डन में यहाँ बैठे हैं हमारे एमएलए साहब, चले गए क्या? Is he gone? Left. I have no, pardon me, I have no respect for politicians. I must tell you, I am a very blunt man. I have no respect for politicians. Most of them are rogues and rascals. They are crooks, hoodlums, gangsters, mafia. They are deceivers. They have no genuine love for the country. They only seek power and pelf for themselves or their families. कोई देश से प्रेम है इन लोगों को? बस वोट मिल जाए हमको, by hook or crook I must get vote, I must get elected, सत्ता मिल जाए, पावर मिल जाए. At least I can't have any respect for such people. सारे देखिए, all our institutions have collapsed. आपकी जुडिशरी, अब देखिए बैठे हैं जस्टिस संतोष हेगड़े, बैठे हैं मैडम सुधा. Is this a judiciary or a joke? You take 25 years to decide a case. Who is going to wait for 20? By the time it is decided in appeal and second appeal or writ, whatever, 25, 30 years have elapsed. If you filed a divorce petition against your wife, you're a young man, by the time the case ends in appeal, second appeal, your hair would have turned white. Then what is the use of it? You want divorce to get remarried again? ये आपकी जुडिशरी और जोक, तारीख पे तारीख पड़ती, पुअर लिटिगेंट जो फंस गया, डेट आफ्टर डेट. What kind of a judiciary is it which takes 25, 30 years to decide a case finally? मजाक है. It's a joke. And more than half the judges, by the way, are corrupt. Mr. Shanti Bhushan, a very eminent lawyer, former union law minister, filed an affidavit in 2009, I think, in which he gave the names of, he said out of 16 former Chief Justices of India, 8 were definitely corrupt. And mind you, these are Chief Justices of India. 8 were definitely corrupt. 2 about which there is some doubt whether there is corrupt or honest. 6, they were definitely honest. He has given the names, and he's not an ordinary man. He was union law minister and top Supreme Court lawyer. कितना corruption फैल गया है आपकी जुडिशरी में? तो क्या, is it not a total collapse of your system? Some people ask me, I said, yes, close down the law courts. You don't need your law courts anymore. And this is the way you're going to function. You can taking 25 years to decide cases, and half of you are corrupt, and go home, pack up, resign, and go home, get out. We don't need a judiciary. क्या फायदा है इसी जुडिशरी से? I am a very straightforward talker. I don't believe in talking nonsense. आपकी पार्लियामेंट में क्या होता है? चिल्ला रहे हैं, shouting, screaming, कुछ नहीं है, कुछ होता है. Bureaucracy, police has largely become, politicized. They were meant to be independent organs, independent of, but they have all become agents of the politicians. ये क्या पूरा सिस्टम आपका कोलैप्स कर गया है? So what is the solution then to the problem? देखिए, I am very clear cut. I have no confusion. You people may be under confusion. I have no confusion. The way out for the Indian people is to launch a mighty, united people struggle, which is going to last 15, 20 years, and which tremendous sacrifices will have to be made. And thereafter culminating in a revolution which will set up a political and social order under which India rapidly industrializes and the standard of living of the people steadily rises and people get decent lives. This is the only way out. Some kind of revolution is coming in this country because everything else is collapsed. But for this revolution, you need patriotic, modern-minded, selfless leaders, which presently are not to be seen. अभी तो जो आपके नेता हैं, ये 2 कौड़ी के लोग हैं, they are men of straw, they are nothing. Of all parties, I am not blaming up any particular party. 2 कौड़ी के, they are not worth even talking to. I don't even like to talk to politicians. Such worthless people these people are. अब देखिए, as I said, देखिए, I am not a supporter of democracy and freedom. See, remember one thing, the test of every political activity is one and only one, and that is, does it raise the standard of living of the people? Does it give people better lives? That is the end. Freedom and democracy can only be a means to that end. It is not the end in itself. So too much democracy and freedom should not be allowed. Democracy means caste and communal vote banks. This is democracy in our country. Do you want this? And if feudal forces are being further strengthened, this is your democracy. I'm against democracy. China में कोई democracy नहीं है. You know, Chinese leaders, their one aim is to keep on industrializing, developing the industries. China has become, very powerful. आपके यहाँ क्या leaders का क्या aim है कि राम मंदिर बनाना है, cow protection करना, ये आपके country leaders का aim है. This is the difference between China and आप जानते हैं देखिए, recently there was a 4-day war between India and Pakistan. Now, in this war, the Pakistanis used Chinese aircraft and missiles, whereas we used French Rafale and Mirage and Sukhoi. But the Chinese weapons, aircraft and missiles proved superior to us. They destroyed many of our aircraft. What does it prove? It proves that China has gone ahead of Europeans in technology, because these weapons, modern weapons, can only be a product of modern industrialized economy. So China has gone ahead in industrialization as compared to Europe. It has not come up to the level of USA, but it has surpassed Europe. So, क्योंकि वहाँ leaders, they don't permit democracy now. सीधे industrialization बढ़ता जाएगा. Rapidly they are increasing it. आपके यहाँ क्या है कि राम मंदिर बनाना है, वही है आपका प्रायोरिटी. अभी yesterday it was announced yoga day. अरे खाने को है नहीं, पेट में रोटी नहीं है, योगा करो. You don't have a job, but do yoga. Wonderful. Are these not stunts and gimmicks? You are treating your people to be fools. You think your people are fools, उनको योगा करा रहे हो. अरे भाई, उनको नौकरी चाहिए, उसको रोटी पेट में चाहिए, मगर उसका नहीं, रोटी और नौकरी नहीं मिलेगी, योगा करो. Very good, very good. अच्छा, अब now see, presently India is not passing through the period of revolution, but before the actual revolution breaks out, there is a period of ideological revolution. We are passing through that period of ideological revolution. See, for example, in France there was a revolution in 1789. But before 1789, for several decades, there was an ideological revolution led by great thinkers and writers like Voltaire and Rousseau and Diderot and so on, which attacked the feudal system, attacked religious bigotry and so on. So India is presently passing through the period of ideological revolution, which is a precursor, which precedes the actual revolution. Or isme all of you thinkers can play a great role in attacking feudal ideas like casteism and communalism and so on. That is your patriotic duty which you have to perform. अब देखिए एक चीज़ आप बता दें and then I will conclude. Hear me very carefully. See, the problem is not how to raise the production. You've got modern method, you can increase steel production or copper production, you can increase production of anything, any number of times. The problem is that people are too poor to buy that. Problem is of purchasing power. आप production बढ़ा देंगे मगर वो बिकेगा नहीं because people are so poor they can't buy it. Now what happened in the Soviet Union, let me just tell you. In 1917 there was a revolution in Russia. The real industrialization of Russia started in 1928 with the adoption of the first 5-year plan. The methodology adopted in that 5-year plan was this. Every 2 years, the prices of commodities were reduced by 5 to 10%. Every 2 years. So steadily the prices are being lowered and lowered. The central government fixed all the prices, and every 2 years the prices were reduced by 5 to 10%. Now this resulted in increase in the purchasing power of the masses, because with the same income, now you can buy more goods because the prices are going down. So this way the domestic market was expanded by this methodology, by steadily reducing prices and simultaneously stepping up production. So what production you increase could be absorbed in the domestic market. Broadly, this was a method adopted in the Soviet Union. Basically, you have to rely on the domestic market. You can't rely on foreign markets because reliance on foreign markets is very precarious. They may be cut off by some foreign power, or there may be a recession in that foreign country where you sell goods. 95% of to be stable, you have to rely on the domestic market. So you have to increase the purchasing power of the people. And I told you the method adopted in the Soviet Union. Now you may not adopt the same method as in the Soviet Union, you may adopt some other method, but you have to find out some way of how to raise the purchasing power of the masses so that the increased production can be absorbed. This is what you people should start thinking. Now there are many other things which I want to talk about, but I'll conclude by just a bit of literature. ये जो पहलगाम अटैक हुआ, in which 26 Hindu tourists were killed on 22nd April 2025. Within half an hour of that attack, entire media started shouting, Pakistan ne kiya, Pakistan ne kiya. Achha, I was interviewed, and I said, well, what is the evidence that it was Pakistan who did it? See, those people who killed those 26 Hindus, they disappeared into the jungles. Now, who were they? Whether Hindus, whether Indians, Pakistanis, who supplied them weapons, whether they had a mastermind, we don't know anything. आपने चिल्लाना शुरू किया, पाकिस्तान ने किया. मैंने कहा, this reminds me of two literary pieces. One is Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar. You see, when Julius Caesar was assassinated, the Romans were very angry at his assassination. So they came out on the streets searching for the assassins. Now one of the assassins was a man called Cinna, C-I-N-N-A. But the mob caught hold of a man whose name was also Cinna. But he was Cinna the poet. So he started shouting, why are you catching me? I'm not Cinna the assassin, I'm Cinna the poet. So the Roman mob said, then hang him for his bad verses. He writes bad poetry, and they killed him. So what I mean to say is that mob mentality is emotional, not rational. They want to kill someone. किसी को अब आपने पाकिस्तान को पकड़ लिया, पीटो, he's a good whipping boy, मारो. कोई no investigation, done nothing आपने. दूसरा piece है Alice in Wonderland. उसमें there is one character called the Queen of Hearts. Anybody brought before, she would say, off with his head, sir काटो. So somebody said, what about holding a trial before cutting off his head? What about giving him a hearing? She said, no, that will come later, first cut off his head. तो आप यानी you all are behaving like this कि साहब पाकिस्तान ने क्या without investigation पाकिस्तान ने अच्छा when I said all this in my interview immediately I was branded as anti-national pro-Pakistani people started attacking me कि तुम पाकिस्तानी हो तुम हमने कहा भैया ठीक है sorry यानी you can't even raise questions or you'll be branded as an anti-national. So there are many other things I wanted to talk about, but I was told to conclude now. So you will excuse me now. I have many things to say, but on the next occasion, I will say that also. Thank you.